Hey everyone, and welcome back to All Things True Crime. I have some wonderful news for you today. We have been covering the horrific murder of Casey Jones and her children Cameron, Preston, McCarley, and Ayana at the hands of Michael Wayne Jones Jr. Trial was set to start December 5th, but on Tuesday, it's just happened, he decided to plead guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. The hearing wasn't available for public viewing, but Casey's family was able to view it thanks to Zoom. Casey's sister Sarah and I had a chat earlier and we decided to share it with you all. In this chat we discuss what it was like to see Michael say the word guilty and what's next in the case. Take a listen. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm excellent.
I learned to use this today.
Pardon?
I learned how to use Zoom a little bit better today.
Yes, I wonder why. I wonder why that would have happened today. Of all the days you may, oh my God, I've never woken up to better news. I've never woken up to better news. I'm trying not to cry because I'm just so happy for you. I've got so many questions.
Yeah, it was definitely bittersweet. I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very emotional on so many different levels for you guys. But obviously this was a complete shock.
Yeah. So yesterday I get a call from a young lady named Crystal. She works with the prosecuting attorney, Amy. She's like a victim specialist kind of thing. And she called me. She goes, just to let you know, Michael will be pleading guilty tomorrow. And instantly, I started bawling, to be honest. And it was kind of mixed emotions. And I know that might sound weird for some people, but it was kind of like good. Like at first, I will tell you, I was a little upset about it, to be honest, because I felt like he was controlling the situation after us waiting for 3 years, after losing our parents, and now he does it. So it was very upsetting at first to me, just because I was like, we've done all this time, all this effort, the answering the questions, doing all these interviews and with the prosecuting attorney and the defense attorneys. And it was kind of like he took away everybody's effort, and controlled the situation. So in a selfish moment, I was a little upset about it. And then once the day went on and I got to watch him this morning, it was kind of like it hit me where it's like, you know what? In a trial, we would have to prove him guilty and force it upon him. And it would be our choice where, this way he actually admitted that he was wrong.
Exactly.
He admitted his crimes. He chose to, take responsibility. So at the end of it, I definitely changed my perspective.
Absolutely. I don't want to say that he's given you a gift, but by admitting that he did this, no one else, he's saved you from having to testify to and maybe see some horrific images that would change your life. So for me as an outsider, I can be thankful that he did that.
Right.
Because he saved so many people a lot of trauma.
He did. And when you look at it that way, absolutely. I still testify in December. So what today is him pleading guilty took away his ability to have appeals for those crimes.
Oh,
he is charged with all of those crimes, so he can no longer appeal it. It is set solid that he is guilty of those, which is the 4 counts of first degree murder and the 1 count of second degree. So he is charged with those crimes, and that is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the only thing that he can appeal is the sentencing he will get in December and in January.
Yep.
So December is where the prosecuting attorney does all theirs, which Brandy and I at least from what I know, Brandy and I are still testifying. We will be going down there from the 7th to the 14th still. So instead of it being the trial for the guilty phase, it is just for specifically the death penalty. So, and then the defense is doing theirs in January. And then in January is when the sentence will be handed down.
Right. I'm sad that you still have to testify, but at least you can testify now knowing, though, that the outcome is still that he's guilty.
Right. It was he was in his jumpsuit today.
Yep.
There was no suit. So
He doesn't get a
that was
suit.
kind of nice. You know, seeing him in the chains. They had him in the handcuffs, which had a long chain down to the feet, and it was in an orange's jumpsuit type thing. I will say that Gel has aged him. He is balding. He is looking pretty rough.
Good.
Yeah, so it was very difficult seeing him at first.
Oh,
You know, seeing
absolutely.
him
Very
walk back
true.
and stuff. But my sister Jennifer and I got to watch it on Zoom. That was it. It was nice to be there. And the thing is I asked I asked Crystal, the young lady that works with us, if she could ask the judge. Mind you, the judge, from what I understand today, he does not like Zoom. He thinks it's difficult. He thinks it's a little hard to deal with, but he was very gracious enough to let us be a part of it. So that was really nice. Even though he didn't like it, he definitely put that aside and let us be a part of it, which was huge for us. And so I appreciated Crystal even asking. And I asked for 5 people to be there. We had some people in there and they couldn't get audio at first and left and they couldn't get back in. So it was kind of sad. I'm glad at least my sister and I got to be in there to see it.
It wasn't
Um,
recorded.
it was recorded. They did record it. So I'm
Okay.
hoping at some point, once it's said and done, we could have it because I would like the others that didn't get to be there to hear him actually say, you know, he pleads guilty. That was the whole point of it.
Can you take
And
me
the
through
judge,
from the beginning of how it happened?
which part?
The hearing in itself, obviously, he comes in, he
Yeah.
shuffles in because he's chained, as he should be. He obviously has to plead guilty to every single count, correct?
Yes. So the judge just asked him questions like, do you understand that this means this? Do you understand that this means this? And he would say, yes, judge. Yes, judge. That was pretty much his was very simple. Yes, judge. That was his answers. There was no long description. There was no he didn't have to describe his crimes or anything. It was just this is the count. Do you, you know, and the judge listed the counts and then he would just say, yes, judge, yes, your honor, you know, yes, your honor, yes, your honor. And then he was changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. And those are literally the only words he used was guilty and yes, your honor. It was it. It was over pretty quickly with that. That really it literally took like 5 to 7 minutes for him to get through that part. It wasn't long at all, but it was enough.
Yeah.
That little bit that it took to do it was enough.
Did he sound remorseful at all?
There was a lot of audio issues in the beginning, but from what we heard, it was very monotone, like most of his interviews. There wasn't a whole lot of
Emotion.
emotion. Didn't look like there was emotion when he was walking back. You know, he was just his shoulders were slumped a little bit. There wasn't a whole lot to it. It was just monotone from what we did get to hear. So,
And just to confirm for everyone, he was not offered a plea deal. This came out of nowhere, seemingly.
right. There was no plea deal to take anything off the table or for any, it was just, he decided to plead guilty. That was it. That's why they're still doing the death penalty in December and January because there was no plea deal. There was no, you can get life and take death penalty off the table. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So She
And
just said
and
he
we've got
upped and paid
no
for it.
idea. We've got no idea why he did that.
Absolutely no explanation was given to me of why he chose to do it. I don't know if he gave a reason or if he just told them that that's what he wanted to do. There was nothing told to us, and I'm sure if he gave a reason, they would have told us. Because they're very, very open and very good at communicating. And they're very sweet ladies, especially Crystal. She's dealt with me crying on the phone. I don't know how many times. She handles it so well.
Mhm.
She's very polite. But yeah, they didn't give a reason. They just said Michael chose to plead guilty, to
Yeah.
change his plea, is what they said. So I
It's
from what I'm
something.
understanding, it was his decision. I would love to know. I would honestly love to know because I don't know if we would ever get the right answer, the true answer, or what. Because without a plea deal, it boggles my mind. Like, why now? Why after all of this do you choose to do it now? It just, I'm grateful for it at the end of the day. I'm grateful for it. At first, again, like I said, it was like I hated him having control over it like that. But at the same time, he did. He did our family a huge favor. A lot of our family was just like, oof, that's, it's done in that aspect. Like for him to admit it was different. Once we sit down and thought about it and pondered on it, it is better.
Yeah. But so now I'm thinking that because of the sentencing phase, does this mean that you still have to witness all of the evidence?
I'm not quite sure of that just yet because obviously the jury that they do pick is for the death. It's a different type of jury.
Yeah.
It's not just a normal, guilty or not guilty. It is definitely a lot more into it. They have to, we set through the rest of the meeting in the courtroom. They decided what they could and couldn't talk about, what they could and couldn't ask the jury, what they could and couldn't mention, even certain words that the judge would have an issue with. And the judge was very fair, fair to both sides. I actually really appreciated watching that judge. It didn't seem like he was biased, I think is the right word. He was following the letter of the law, and that's what he expected the jury that is chosen to do. He was very adamant about not making it seem like the jury are heroes for either picking the death penalty or not. He said this is their constitutional right. This is their, I wouldn't say lawful. I'm not sure of the word he used because it was kind of, sometimes it was hard to hear him, but he was very adamant about not making it seem like from the defense side that they would be the hero if they chose to give him life instead of death. And I appreciated that because he was like, it's their duty. That's what they're here for. I'm sure they said a majority of the time when somebody's convicted, they automatically start an appeal.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming if he gets death, that's what will happen. But either way, he has admitted it. So whether he gets death or life, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I don't care. Now after today, I've always been again, not wanting the death penalty because of how, you know, he gets a mill and being put to sleep. It bothered me. But after today, it's like I don't care. He's gonna get life or death, and it's gonna be in there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all you can really ask for. Either one, it is what it is.
Today's a sense of closure for that
It,
aspect.
yeah, it changed it for me because I was like, no, I don't want it. But now I'm like, either way, he's admitted it. He's got this on his record. This is it. Well, one thing that did surprise me today was the mentioning of they weren't allowed to if I'm not mistaken, they weren't allowed to mention something about whether if he would do this crime again or if he was, if he would murder again. It was weird. It was a little like
Well, I think
you
that would
didn't
be
you
part
didn't
of a
think about
mitigating
that.
factor.
Yeah, you
because
didn't think about that.
they have to do that. So with the mitigating factors in sentencing, they look at things like, have they got a criminal record? Are they a
Right,
danger to the community?
right.
So I'm wondering if it's something like that, but that doesn't really matter because he's not getting out. So
Right, true. But in my head, though, I never thought about that, though. I never thought if he did walk the face of the earth again, it's, free, which again, I doubt that will happen. But, it's like, would he? Would he do it again? I just never thought about it. I never thought if this was just the one time thing with his family or if he would, since he got a taste of it, do it again. And it was weird to even think about it once it was mentioned because it never even crossed my mind,
no, of course not.
you know?
So how did you feel during everything, or did it was it a bit of a sort of whirlwind whilst it was all going on today?
At first, when we were waiting to go in, my hand was shaking. I was nervous. I didn't know how I'd feel seeing him. But once things got rolling, it was just kind of relaxing to see it done. I think it was just kind of like once his part was over and they just started talking about the other stuff, it was just like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Even with this coming up and still having to testify and be there, it kind of felt over to me in a sense. That could change once we're in the room physically with him. That could change a little bit. Still having to point at him and look at him and describe what he's wearing. That's still something that we have to do. Seeing him live kind of like that was difficult, but I think it might change a little bit seeing him in person. I think that's still going to be pretty difficult because we have
Yeah.
not experienced that yet. But other than that, I think physically seeing him, I felt pretty, it's done, you know,
I
for
guess
me.
you're also saved from having to see him in a suit.
It will still
Um,
be in a suit for December and January.
why?
Um, it's his right. It's his right to this one was kind of like last second, so they didn't change him, but for the actual like it's a mini trial, he will, I believe, get to be in a suit still, even though he's been convicted.
I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about that?
I did not like it, you know. I understand they're right and not trying to sway the jury, him wearing a suit instead of an orange jumpsuit, us wearing regular clothes instead of having the kids and Casey plastered all over our clothes. I get it. I understand why they do the things that they do, but at the same time, like I had said in a different interview with you, I wear flip flops and tank tops and shorts all year round here, even in the winter. So it was going back thinking about like this man that took the life of our family is going to look decent. He's going to look presentable. He's probably going to be his hair's probably going to be done. He probably won't look as disheveled as he did today in person.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure that will be a little bit of a mind bender,
Yeah.
seeing him cleaned up and put together in a way.
So unfortunately, it sounds like it's going to be a month, and during that month, you're going to have holidays, Christmas, New Year's.
Yeah.
I was hoping that it
Um
wasn't going to be as drawn out.
yeah, and see at first I thought the reason in the back of my mind that he did the pleading is because we will have to be in court on the day of his daughter's birthday. The next day. Our trial will start on the 8th and her birthday is on the 9th. So I thought at first that's maybe why he did it, thinking he wouldn't have to be in court, but we're still on for those dates. So we will still be in the room with this man on his daughter's birthday. And that to me is going to be very difficult.
Of
But at
course.
the same time, I want to see how he is on that specific day because Mercalli was a daddy's girl. She was a daddy's baby. That little girl was all about him. So I wonder how he's going to feel on that day and how he's going to react and look and if you see a hint of emotion at all. I'm
Because
kind of curious to see if that will happen, to be honest.
because you've not been given any emotion. He's not shown any emotion in anything so far, so
Right. Yeah, he's been very monotone throughout the whole thing. Very motionless, faceless. There's not been anything to there's not been any smirks or tears or anything to show either way. And I was hoping today, he would have had to describe and answer to it and why, but there was none of that. And I truly don't know if we'll get, other than what he's said in previous interviews. I don't know if we'll ever truly get 100% everything. I'll tell you though, when you say you want to know how, when, why, where, you want to know all those, but sometimes when you get the answers, you either have more questions, or it breaks you down. It
yeah.
chisels away at you.
I guess you could also consider asking him during your victim impact statement, because when you make that, afterwards, he's allowed to say something if he wants. So there is that chance that you could ask if you personally want, but there's not a
Um,
you won't know whether he'll actually address it.
well, from what I understand, we're not allowed to address him in any way, shape, or form in our impact statements. We're not allowed to say Michael took them away from us. Michael did this. Why did Michael do that? We're not allowed to do that. We actually have to address it pretty much to the jury, as what our impact statements are,
Oh, right.
how it
I've
affected us.
forgotten that a jury
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
is
So,
there.
right. So, we technically can't address him in a way, like at all. We're not allowed to address him at all. But, there's certain ways, I guess, you could word stuff that would, you know,
I guess you could talk about how you felt that you wanted answers.
yeah. I actually was told by someone, that a therapist, which I was very surprised by, the therapist told this person to take birthday cards every birthday, Christmas, whatever holiday, and write how you're feeling on that day and then send it to him.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I never thought of it like that. I would write on his Facebook on how I felt. That's how I was doing it. But I never thought of such an idea. But it's like, if I have to remember and feel this way each time, each holiday, each birthday, you're going to know about it, whether you read it or not, whether, I don't care. Knowing that I wrote it down and sent it, and they're going to be coming every birthday, every holiday.
I think that's
I
incredibly
think that's
powerful.
incredibly powerful. Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful idea, and one that I will probably borrow.
I was going to suggest that, you could write to him, but that's such a deeply personal thing that it's up to every individual person. I really love the idea of the cards,
Yeah.
um, because he has to live with it. I think especially, I hate to do this. I hate to bring up Chris Watts, but when Chris Watts did an interview after he pled and he was sentenced, he talked
Mhm.
about how he would see his daughters in his jail cell, and he was haunted by them and the memories. And so, in a sense, I think that the cards would be a way to continually remind Michael. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I did too. I think there was actually something in the thing today that reminded me of the comment that you just made. The judge was very adamant about not having other cases like this mentioned in court.
Yeah,
And I guess some people might be taken away by that, but at the same time, as the family member, I appreciated it, because you want it to stay focused.
exactly.
And the fact that he was like, I don't want that to happen. He said a specific one. but I can't remember the name. It was a very different name that I had never heard before, but he did not want it mentioned in there. And I really, really liked the fact that it was going to stay focused on this and his crimes and him himself. But yeah, he's been when it first happened, they called him Chris Watts 2.0, and I had never heard of Chris Watts.
Oh boy.
So I actually did research and found out about that family. And it's sad how, how many there are, especially in Florida.
How are you feeling right now?
I'm not as anxious and like, oh my gosh, we gotta hurry. December's like, oh my gosh, it's right around I'm not as anxious about it. Now I'm just like, hey, it's gonna come, it's gonna happen. It is what it is, I'm at that point because I'm kind of like I said, I kind of feel like it's done for me. I'm still gonna go, I'm still gonna be there, I'm still gonna be my family's voice. I'm still gonna do all that. But at the same time, I feel free of it. I'm still sad. I'm still in my emotions about it. And like I said, it's gonna probably be really hard to see him in person, but I don't feel as heavy.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
it does.
Um, yeah, I feel kind of free of a lot of emotions that went along with it with him.
So, for you personally, once you get the sentence, no matter what, do you feel like you'll be done? Because I know that, say he was to get death, you can appeal it. Do you feel like you'll continue to be as emotionally invested, I guess? Or do you feel like you'll have a sense of being done after sentencing?
I I feel done when it comes to certain emotions with it. But if he appeals and they need me, like I'm right there.
Yeah,
Like I'll do whatever I have to do, give what I have to give. I'm not gonna stop that part of it
but you'll sort of emotionally be checked out a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah,
It won't be as hard and as stressful. And I think just the emotion side of it is a smidge easier to me
yeah.
when it comes to him alone.
I still think today is a bit bittersweet, but I still think it's a celebration of ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm really, really happy for you all that he took he finally took some ownership of what he did because it was him, no one else.
Right.
It was a shock actually when I saw your post. I thought, "What? Wait,
Yeah,
what?"
posted it first thing. I definitely wanted, since you've been so great with us and my family, I definitely wanted to make sure that it was in there. I couldn't tell anybody yesterday.
Yeah, of
I wanted
course.
you to make sure he went through with it. It was very hard to keep away from you because I wanted to tell you first thing, but as soon
Right.
as I got the Zoom, I went ahead and posted it. So
Yeah.
I was allowed to tell like my sisters, I was allowed to tell them because they could be there, which we weren't even supposed to be there. I actually asked on behalf of us if we could be there, and she asked the judge and got back to me end of day. And we found out yesterday that we would get to be there.
I'm so glad they did that for you, that the judge did that for you.
Allowed
That's
it.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
really
glad that I
important.
even thought about asking.
Yes.
Um, but I was very glad that a judge that is very quick to tell you that he does not prefer Zoom, he actually allowed it. And we actually did, I think we were so free of kind of stuff with it that we actually giggled afterwards because my sister Jennifer, she was very nervous. She was very scared. She's like, I don't want to mute myself. I don't want
Oh,
to,
I oh. Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want to do this. And she actually did unmute herself on accident.
Oh,
And
no. Oh.
so it was kind of in that moment I saw Casey.
Oh,
You know, it was
yeah,
like Casey showed up for a second for me
yeah.
during the because when she unmuted it, she didn't realize at first that she had unmuted it. And when seen she had moved, and I saw the green light up around her little square picture. And I was like, I just put my finger on my mouth and, like a motion with your finger.
Yeah.
And I just kind of put it there for a second. And she kind of looked at me a little weird. And then she coughed a little bit. I didn't really hear the cough, but she saw her green light up.
Oh no.
The moment she realized that it was on, her eyes got so big.
She would have been mortified.
She was. She was absolutely petrified. And she's just, all you see in the video is her with this scared face and her finger just drastically trying to do something. And, and then she kind of realized and saw herself how freaked out she looked and what she was doing. So she stopped and was just a statue. And so when she finally was like, she moved and she heard the rustle, like you could hear her moving. She was like, oh goodness, like I better try to pull this in and mute myself. And so she was just trying to go at it again. And it was actually really sweet and cute because it was
Yeah.
like it was like Casey for a second
Yeah.
because she looked so much like Jennifer, because Jennifer is older, so I guess I have to say she looked like Jennifer. But it was just really sweet because it was kind of like Casey was there for me in that moment, because that's what Casey would have done.
Sometimes we
She
need the light
really
during the
big.
dark. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it was. And
Yeah.
I just, even though she is mortified about it, it was actually very, very sweet with me, for me.
So is there anything else you want to talk about from today?
I think I kind of summed it up. Our family's very happy. Aunts and uncles and grandma. My grandma, who turned 88 on the 20th. It was kind of like a late birthday present from her because it was the next day. But she was very happy to hear yesterday that he was pleading guilty. So for me to finally have someone like that, like our mom didn't get to hear it, our dad didn't get to hear it, but our grandma did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of something that was very nice. She was here for it. She is 88 years old. So it was nice that one of them, she was like an extra mom to us growing up. She was always living with us. So that I think was another thing to add to the good part of it, was my
Yeah.
grandma getting to hear about it. But I think just our family's happy, where it's kind of, I think everybody kind of feels a sense of peace and freedom with it. We're not as anxious as we are for December as we were. It's kind of like either way.
Yeah.
A lot of them
Yep.
still want the death penalty. A lot of people, a lot of strangers, a lot of friends, family, so, but yeah, today was a good day. And I just want people to know, one, supporting our family, whether they know us or not, that's been amazing. We've had complete strangers, people from UK, Germany, states in the US, we've had Australia, we've had so many supporters for awareness in our family. I can't thank people enough, honestly, because without your group, without groups like it wouldn't have been out there.
Yeah.
People wouldn't have known about it.
Well, because so after I found out, one of the first things I did, I went to Google. I went to YouTube. There's nothing on it. There's
Right.
absolutely no story I've seen
Mm-hmm.
about today. And it's like, and then it sort of made me think about the way true crime's covered, and there really isn't much follow up for a
Yeah.
lot of cases. It's just this is what
There's
happened,
not.
and then that's it.
It just completely, it's like you hear about it when it happens, and then it's because it takes so long to get
Yep.
anywhere with it, it's completely dropped and people forget about it.
Yeah.
And it's not like you want people living it every day, but you do want awareness out there so it doesn't happen to somebody else.
Exactly.
But from the bottom of my heart, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for my family when we say, like, thank you. We appreciate it. The love that has poured out of the group is it's just been awesome. And along with me, I appreciate you not being disrespectful to his family. Regardless, I don't care how he was raised, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter to me. They're still human. They still technically have had loss,
Yeah.
grandchildren, still a son. I couldn't imagine as a mom being in that position. We can judge all we want, but I know when my kid does something, steals a piece of gum from somebody, I'm like, my kid would never do that, even though he did, if he would have, you know what I'm saying? One of my children, I'm still very defensive. They're my children. They're my babies.
Yep.
Of course, they've never done something as horrific, but they're your children. And I couldn't imagine being put in that position to be blamed to whatever she's had. I couldn't imagine, to be honest.
Well, the
Um,
community also shuns you and degrades you, and I'm sure even going out in public can be a lot for a lot of
yeah,
people's families.
it was hard being the victim's sister when it came to how they put her down and
Yeah.
how they went after her. So I couldn't imagine being the mother of the murderer,
Yeah.
plain and simple. When it was hard just being the family of the victims. I never thought about that, because I didn't expect people to go after our family and my sister the way they did. So I couldn't imagine what she received and the hate that she's got, regardless of her situation or anything to do with it. It's sad to watch, but I am glad that you're respectful of that because, again, it's her son. It's still a loss. She did lose grandchildren, so she's hurting her in her way, in multiple ways. So the fact that you are respectful to them, I appreciate. I understand people being mad. I understand why people might blame. It's just not my way of doing it. I checked on her and she's had a very difficult day.
Of course.
I think she just kind of wants to put it behind her and move on. And
Yeah.
hopefully she gets that at some point.
Yeah.
So
I've always thought, not just in this case, in cases in general, especially since starting this series, I have wondered if a killer or murderer's family would ever speak to me. I'd be worried that it would upset people because it wouldn't be about the victim, but I would love to hear from how they deal with it because
right.
like today, like I'm sitting here celebrating, and then you've just reminded me, yeah, well, this poor woman's and their family, this is a lot for them today.
Of course they have mixed emotions. You got to think. One, they do love this person whether they want to or not. This is their brother, their son, their cousin, whoever, their nephew. They, just like me with Casey, I remember riding bikes with her, holding her chin together when she cut her chin. I remember those things. I remember the good moments. I remember the bad moments. And of course, they're doing the same.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're like, oh, I would have never thought this when he was 13 and he was doing this and this. They have those mixed emotions. And of course, they love the children. So, and they loved Casey,
And they can't
and
grieve they can't grieve openly either.
of course not. Even though they lost grandchildren, they could never grieve the way I'm able to out in public. People take that right, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's a fact, but in my opinion, I think people have taken that away
I remember
from them.
reading, do you remember the Columbine murders, the
Mm-hmm.
massacre? I remember reading Sue Clearbold's book. Her son was one of the murderers, and she
And
talked
there's two
about
of them, right?
yeah, there was, and
Yeah.
she wrote the book, and it's an incredible book, and it really changed a lot for me. And she wrote about how no funeral home would take her son's body. Only
Yeah.
one would, and they couldn't have a funeral. They had to do it at like 2 a.m. in the morning,
Well, I'm
transfer his
assuming.
body, because no one would help them at all with that. And that really like changed a lot for me in how I view the other family involved in all of these
Absolutely.
cases, because yeah. And like, and the thing is that they'll have to deal with a possible death penalty for their loved one.
Right. Someday, at some point, they might have to watch their loved one be put to death, whether they agree with it or not.
Yeah.
And that's bittersweet for her. And like I said, at first, when it first happened, of course, I wanted nothing to do with anybody on that side. And like I said, it took me down a path that I did not want to take.
Yeah.
Um, and so I chose to honor Casey's memory because she loved his children from his ex-wife like her own. And because she talked to his brother, because of the relationship she had with them, I chose to honor that. Casey would not want, in my opinion, would not have wanted us to treat them differently and rudely. So I chose to be a little bit more understanding. I can't completely 100% wrap my mind around it, but I am a mother.
You have so much empathy, and I also want to say that I understand people that are angry at the family. I do understand that anger, because we all grieve differently, I think. But
Of
you've
course.
just shown so much kindness and empathy during it.
Thank you.
You're just incredible, the way that you handle all of this. I know that it's not always like this, and there's those really, really bad days,
Of course.
but you're just incredible.
I appreciate that. I'm I'm taking it day by day. I have had my moments where I have been on that dark side. You definitely do have those moments where you agree with the crowd and it's her fault and you could blame her or her siblings or whoever else and you could do that. But then you take away from him and
Yeah.
what he did.
Yes.
And that's what
Wow.
I don't agree with.
Wow,
That's my problem.
that's so powerful. You take away from him.
Yeah. It it gives him the freedom to take off the load that should be on him. At the end of the day, it is Michael Jones who did what he did, and he should answer for those crimes and nobody else.
And in a sense, he has.
Absolutely. Today was a good day.
Today was a great day. All right, well, I'm going to let you go.
All right,
Um,
hun.
I'm glad today happened for you,
Me
and
too.
I'll chat to you soon.
All right, hun.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye.
Bye.